unfortunately, I'm not at Slieve League, but this is a Wild Atlantic Way. I'm based here in Donegal. And as Alison said, I'll tell you a little bit more about what I do at the moment. Firstly, I want to thank Alison and WestBIC for inviting me to deliver this. I've had great fun doing some research on it. We did a survey. Thank you all who took part. And there's some really interesting bits and pieces we're going to take out of it. So just bear with me 1 second. So I get to my, hopefully, screen. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we're going to start off just as I say, my name is Evelyn Mc Glynn. I was a stay-at-home mum for 20 years. So let that sink in for a second. I was a stay-at-home mum for 20 years. I have 3 grown-up kids. I do not have a third-level education, no primary degree, other than what has been self-taught throughout the years. I am a qualified coach. I'm qualified in lots of different things, and I always believed in the, if someone asked you to do something, say yes, and go and learn how to do it. I'm the author of 6 books, or co-author with a number of books. And I suppose really when Alison asked me to do this, there was a bit of, am I an imposter or am I not an imposter? And what is this imposter syndrome? And believe you me, I have felt it many years as a mum, as a daughter, as being a self-employed, as a businesswoman, and in so many ways. I'm also the PRO for Donegal Women in Business Network, which has 200 members. And so many of those as well over the years. And in my coaching practice, I would have, a lot of people have spoke to me about imposter syndrome. So let's just jump right in and see what it is. So in a nutshell, Harvard Business Review defines imposter syndrome as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persists despite evident success. I mean, that's almost unbelievable that that's what it is, but that basically is it is. So even though we know something to be true, we actually feel like a fraud. So like, have you ever felt like a complete fraud, and that everybody was going to find out that you didn't deserve your accomplishments, or you didn't deserve to be giving the talk or writing the paper or delivering the workshop, or be in business, or be a mother or a father? Have you wrestled with the feeling like you don't belong? And if so, then about 70% of the world population feel this. And our survey actually, you know, we found that that was pretty much the figure of our survey as well. It was first identified more than 40 years ago by psychologists Pauline Rose Clancy and Suzanne Imes, and it affects both men and women. It affects everybody on the ladder from, you know, beginning to end. Age tends to settle it a little bit because you kind of get to that stage where you kind of go, I really don't care. And it causes anxiety and affects your physical and mental well-being. And before we even start, if there's anybody today that is particularly anxious, and this is a real issue for you, talk to a coach, talk to a mentor, talk to people. You will find that it affects more people than you think. And yet people rarely discuss it or talk about it. And so today is definitely the time to talk. So we're going to talk a little bit about the survey that we did on LinkedIn. And so these are the things. So the reports that came back was, I've heard of imposter syndrome and believe it's real. So 92% said that. I've experienced imposter syndrome, often 46, usually 29, rarely 12, and never 11, and a few bits and pieces extra there. I tend to remember the instances where I've not done my best more times than when I've done my best. And again, let's stop and think about that. So you've done something really brilliant. You come out and you go, that was fantastic. And then next week you do something and it wasn't so great. Which do you remember, and why is that? And if somebody says to you after you finished it, oh, Evelyn, that was brilliant, but did you notice that you fluffed your words in between? Oh my God, did I? Oh, and suddenly the focus is taken from how we deliver something, do something, to the negative. I sometimes think, talk about fluffing words, I sometimes think I gain my present position or success due to luck or being in the right place at the right time. 68% of people surveyed said that, regardless of their qualifications, regardless of what they had done. So that's a pretty clear picture in that it is something that a lot of people deal with, and that for what reason. And so in terms of identifying, we're not going to spend too long on these. This is something that I spent more time on when we do the course. But the perfectionists, they have such high expectations for themselves that even small mistakes will make them feel like failure. And, you know, we all know I'm not in that category because I'm definitely not a perfectionist. But I know lots of people who literally want to have such high expectations of what they're going to do that they can't make any mistake. The Superman or Superwoman, they put in longer hours, never take days off, and must succeed in all aspects of life in order to prove that they're a real deal. And probably I'm that one. And again, I'm going, the imposter syndrome is going, well, you can't use the term superwoman, really. That's just too much of a compliment. The natural genius, they are used to coming out easily. So when something is too hard or they don't master it on the first try, then they feel shame and doubt. The soloists, they don't like to ask for help. So when they do, they feel like a failure or a fraud. And the expert, they continuously seek out additional certifications or training because they feel as though they will never know enough to be truly qualified. And so again, if you sort of slot yourself into one of those, it might be no harm to just make a note of it. So what happened? How did this change? Look at this slide. Remind yourself that you were born with phenomenal confidence and self-esteem, and that you still retain that deep inside. So what was it? Was it a teacher that said it to us that we weren't as good as we thought we were? Was it a parent? Was it a parent protecting us by not letting us do something? I mean, I often tell the story that I actually can't paint. I mean, as in paint walls. And my poor mum, she used to say to me that I couldn't paint. I think she was just afraid that I was going to splash everything with paint. So to this day, I've never painted a wall. And I believe, and it suits me now to be honest, but I do believe that I can't paint. And I find myself then putting that on to my kids over the years. And so the thing is, what happened and why is it that even though we're born with tremendous confidence, and you can see that with toddlers, and part of it is this. So I have somebody sharing with me today, and I want to now introduce them to you. I want to introduce you to my inner critic, and my inner critic is called Agatha. So when I was doing my course for coaching, life and business coaching, we had to read a book, the Lip Review, and the book that I read was Playing Big by Tara Moore. And Tara Moore basically says that for us to overcome the inner critic, the imposter syndrome, that we need to name our inner critic, not dismiss them totally because they sometimes can be of great help. Now, I had a great conversation with my inner critic, Agatha, this morning, and I told her that she was going to have to sit this one out, that I was totally in control, that I knew what I was doing, and that everybody was going to be lovely anyway, and even if I made a mistake. But Agatha wasn't having that. So Agatha decided my screen on my computer for Zoom wasn't going to work. She put the Wi-Fi down, and then she sent a bee into where I'm working. And finally, a workman who's due to arrive next week, he arrived today. So you can just imagine what 15 minutes before I came on screen was a bit like. And I genuinely believe that Agatha was in my head saying, this isn't going to work. Look at that now. The workman's turned up. There's going to be noise. Dog's going to bark. It's going to be crazy. They're not going to love you. And this is the thing, I suppose, that I have found is definitely, and again, if you take something away from this today, is name that inner critic. Because as soon as they have a name, you can even draw a little picture of them or give them some kind of personality. So again, sometimes we need them because they kind of keep us on our toes, they keep us humble, but they also just give us that edge if we know they're there. But also by telling them, I've got this, I can do this on my own, you just wait this one out. So definitely Agatha is here very much. She's huffing, she's sulking a little bit that she's not getting inside my head for this event. So how can we resolve imposter syndrome, and what do we need to do to really, work it out and live with it? Because we can't get rid of it totally, but how can we live with it, and how can we ease it, and how can we learn more about it? And so over the next few slides, basically, we're going to be talking about steps that we can take. So adopt a growth mindset. So there are some people who do not suffer from imposter syndrome at all. And the difference between them and the 70% who does is mindset. Now, for any of you who work on your mindset and personal development, it's tough because there's always something. There's social media, there's other people in our business, there's other parents, there's other things going on, and we believe somehow that we are lesser in many ways than they are, which of course, as we go along, you'll find that that's not true at all. So in terms of adopting a growth mindset, what's that all about, or how do we do that? So embrace the challenges. Don't fear them. Just go, yeah, I'm going to do this. And again, talking to Agatha and the inner critic, say, well, what is the worst that can go wrong? What if it is a total disaster? And by sort of perfecting that, you move into that growth. Learn more about what you're feeling. So what you're doing today, you're turned up here, you're having hopefully an informative session on what exactly imposter syndrome is. Choose great role models. So people like Maya Angelou, who is a writer, Michelle Obama, Ed Sheeran, all of the people at different ages and different sectors that are role models for different people, they all have talked openly about feeling that they didn't deserve, or they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, or that they are imposters. So, you know, have a look at those role models and just do a little bit of analysis of it. There was an interesting thing I've written down here. It was that Walt Disney actually got the sack from a newspaper, just didn't get the exact details on that, Kansas City newspaper, because he wasn't creative enough. And Oprah Winfrey was told that she wasn't good enough for telly, fit for telly. She went on to own telly, full stop. And take an inspiration from others and challenge your current beliefs. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Is it real? Is it true? And why? And seeing failures as an opportunity to actually learn from that. Okay, that was a problem. I didn't succeed as well as I thought I did. Was I prepared? Did I think it through? And to see them as an opportunity to learn something else. And the most importantly, I think one of the most important things is to be authentic, be real, not to try and be an imposter. Not when you try to be something that you're not, it's just not real and it doesn't fit, and people don't appreciate that or respect it. So one of the things, some of the, in the survey, we took quotes, and somebody gave this quote: sit down and take stock. Really look at how far you've come through decisions you've made that had nothing to do with luck, and you will see your confidence grow. This confidence is what will make you feel less of an imposter in all situations you come across in life. So, you know, we'll talk again later on about writing things down, about getting feedback from people, but really just take stock and see what's real and what's not. Also, positivity is something that actually will really grows as we experience positive emotions. So things like joy, gratitude, interest, inspiration. So increasing positivity over time will reshape your life and build your confidence. And if you remember these times, you go back to those. And so likewise, again, if you go back and think, I am grateful for, I have faith in, you know, all of those joy, the experiences of joy, they will help you when times get tough, when you're feeling like that imposter syndrome. Go back to a time when you were experiencing any of those emotions and keep adding to them, and maybe start again writing them down. You know, I felt great after the talk was over, and you know, it was a really lovely experience. I went off, had my coffee, and it just really felt good. I felt that I've engaged with everybody. And so even reading back that again in the future is something. So it's like you're putting a portfolio or building an emotions bank. Again, if there's one thing you take from today, this is the slide. I am a fake. I should not be here. I cannot do this. So dispute negative thinking. So write it down, read it out loud, and dispute it with yourself. And I get that. And basically, you'll find, you know, okay, so if I was saying, okay, I'm a fake, I shouldn't be here. You know, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert in imposter syndrome, but I've experienced it. I've researched it. I've talked to people about it. And I've written that down, and I've said, okay, so, you know, why should I be here? And you go, yeah, you know, it's the analysis of disputing what is real and what is fact. And to help you with that, could you imagine if you thought of some business person that does something for you? So let's say a hairdresser, male, female. So they cut your hair. You know, they're brilliant. You go back to them constantly, get your hair cut. And then suddenly you hear a conversation or overhear a conversation in a pub or a cafe or whatever. And somebody's saying, oh, you know, they're not really good. They're not that great. You know, I've seen this or whatever. I've heard that. And you're going to go disputing that because you know that that is not true. And that could be for anything that anybody does with you or any friend or anything at all. So why do we allow negative thinking to really get into our head, and we believe it? And before we start the event, or we start whatever it is that we're doing, or go for the job, we're going, oh, I'm not deserving of this, I shouldn't do it. So again, writing it down either digitally or on paper, and just dispute it, constantly dispute it. So again, then in terms of, in terms of replacing negative self-talk, so, you know, I'm just looking here at my notes, and, you know, it's something like, how often do you say, I don't know how to, or it's like the self-sabotage, if only if I was younger, or if I was only smarter or more talented. And it's just in terms of, if you say to yourself, I can't do that, again, ask yourself, why can't you do it? Analyze it, dispute it, and talk it through, but stop talking about, oh, I'm no good at, I can't do this, I was never any good at. So stop with replace the negative self-talk with a positivity, and really sort of see what you can move forward with that. So going back then to the survey, these were some of the top tips on surviving imposter syndrome. So you need to be able to talk about it with peers. Also useful to know how to support others who may be at risk of suffering from imposter syndrome. And that's another really good point. You have the opportunity now to help others. So be careful that you're not being critical to someone or overcritical, and that if you do believe that they need some critique or feedback, that you give it to them from a good place and that you help them, because you have the opportunity to do that. Before we started today, somebody on LinkedIn that I actually haven't really know or met sent me a message to wish me well, and I just felt so empowered by that. And so I think as well that that's something we all can do. Have a serious talk in the mirror every morning to see failures as learning opportunities. Get out of your own way, give yourself the same advice you would give someone else, and take it. How bad are we at that? We are great at giving advice to somebody, but not taking our own advice. So really get into your own head. I love that. And get out of your own way. Look back at how far you've come and what you've achieved. How often do we do that? How often do we say, gosh, I really have moved the dial in the last 6 months, or a year, or 5 years? Get feedback and find proper mentors. If you are really anxious to talk to someone, it is real, and it can really destroy your life if you let it. Just realize that many people suffer from it and have belief in yourself. That was a tremendous piece of feedback. You know, if you're really anxious, don't dismiss it at all. Don't even dismiss it as something you need to solve. Really talk to someone and don't let it destroy your life. This was a really interesting, again, so it kind of shows that whole thing about in terms of regardless of what level you're at, regardless of what space you're at in life. This person said, I lecture part-time and find good preparation helps to alleviate it a bit, but it's still very much there. And that at the end, we're looking at top tips. So what can you do extra, but preparation is definitely the one. If you are going to put yourself into a situation where you're delivering a talk, doing an interview, doing a pitch, whatever it is that you're doing in business or in work. And again, this is for the employed, the self-employed, the stay-at-home mom, the teenager, the graduates at the moment are struggling because they're basically coming out of a situation of having been doing their course online, and now they're out into the world, they're qualified as whatever it is they're qualified, but they don't have that confidence. So it's up to people like us to make sure and tell them about things like that and tell them it's normal. Make a list of all the great things you've achieved, so next time you feel imposter syndrome creeping in, you can remind yourself that it's not luck, it's because you're great. And again, it's that thing, you know, to dispute. Was it luck? Did you know the person? You know, if you almost take the extreme if you doing an interview and you get the job, you know, ask yourself, did I know that person? Did I canvass that person? No, of course not. Well, then why did they pick me? Oh, there must be nobody else in for the job. You know, realistically, that's very, very, very unlikely. But again, even if there was, sometimes it will open up again. They just won't give it to the first person that applies unless that they are suitable for the post. So again, you know, we really need to just, you know, look at our imposter syndrome, look at our inner critic, and really ask, is this real? What am I imagining? Is it real? So what if? So, you know, when I was doing some work on this, I was thinking about the term what if. And if I was to ask you now, you know, for you, what if? Is that a positive sentence or is it a negative sentence? So sadly, I think it's pretty much a what if. What if it goes wrong? What if I get a panic attack before I have to deliver the talk? What if it rains? What if the roads are slippy and we don't get to? What if I make a mess of it? But why does it have to be a negative for what if? What if we can reframe that to, what if I'm amazing? What if I do a really good talk? How great is that going to be? How am I going to feel? What if I get another opportunity out of that? What if people want to do the course that I've written? What if everything turns out to be brilliant? And for some reason, in our framing of our lifetime, and again, you know, I know we have different people from different cultures and countries here, but maybe as an Irish nation, it was that little bit of maybe when we were growing up that our parents were of a different generation, where maybe that there was that little bit more negativity around, you know, not making us too big for our boots. I think there was certainly a little bit of that. So, you know, I think that again, what if is something, and there's a lot of work for you to do here, because really what I'm suggesting is you go back over all of these things and that you really start writing down that the next time you think that you're going to say, what if it doesn't work out? Or what's the point in applying for that? Or what if they get somebody else? Or what if, but what if not? What if you're on the greatest cusp of an opportunity of your lifetime? So again, measure and track. We've spoke about it a little bit as we went along, but here's what you need to do. You need to start with either a digital memory of it or just good old-fashioned pen, pencil, paper. You need to create a mindset that will allow you to celebrate achievements. You are unique. You are your own person. You are your greatest champion. If you can't say to yourself, you know, I did a good job, or I was pretty damn good at that, really, you know, that's not, bragging is not ridiculous if it's real. You know, sometimes I suppose we have to be careful that we don't, and those who normally deal with imposter syndrome aren't actually going the opposite direction, saying, I'm brilliant, I'm wonderful. That's equally as difficult a position to find yourself in, because that's not real. So what I suppose really the thing is, ask for testimonials if you're in a business, write them down, as well as seeing them digitally if somebody's put them there. If you've delivered a workshop, if you have given a conversation, if you're mentoring somebody, ask somebody for feedback. And, you know, just the simple things, like if somebody says, God, you know, Evelyn, you know, you sure know how to talk, or, you know, you're full of energy or whatever, then I will actually take that and I'll put that somewhere, because there'll be a day somebody might say to me, God, you're hard to listen to. Or that you come out of a client and it just doesn't go well. I need to read that positive affirmation of somebody giving good feedback. So what I would definitely say to you is create a mindset to celebrate you, to say, you know what, I really deserve to know and to hear when I'm doing a good job. So ask people for that feedback. Ask your family and friends, you know, what am I good at? How can I improve on that? And to not necessarily take any slight critique as criticism. And like we said earlier on, to just really work with what we have and what we're given, and to lift our head above that, you know, oh, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, because the only person and the only thing that will change that is your mindset. So visualize success. I thought this was a fabulous picture when I found it, you know, the lion and the little girl, and she's visualizing the idea that this is, and for us, this is, you know, what we need to do. We need to visualize. So if we are going to be in a position where we think imposter syndrome is going to be a real issue for us, you know, maybe we need to sit down and imagine, am I prepared enough for it? Have I done as much as I can to get there? Yeah, I've done that. Okay. So what else? What could go wrong? What might happen? What will be proof that I'm being an imposter here? So that if you've looked at all of that and you've imagined what it's going to be and you see the situation as it arises, then that's visualizing that and being positive. And maybe again, you know, writing that down. Okay, I'm applying for this job. Here's what I'm thinking might be. You know, or I'm delivering a talk, or who's going to be in the room? Have I checked out all of my things that I need? And it's going to be a success. You know, one of the things that also I do before a talk or before any event is I listen to some music that actually is a kind of a power song. And for me, that's Katy Perry, Roar. So I think really everybody should have, as I say, name their imposter, send, or name their inner critic, but also have a piece of music or something that really puts you in the space of overcoming whatever it is in your mind to build that mindset. And the other thing I suppose about that is that just, you know, they talk about power poses, you know, is to build yourself to the stage where you say, I am good enough, I am worthy, I've come to this stage, I can do this, and really visualize that it's going to be a success rather than doubting. Now, doubt, of course, is all around us as well, but it's visualizing that success. So I to basically recap before we get to some questions and some general conversation. Talk to someone. Everyone deals with it. So we found that 70% are pretty much doing it. Don't carry it alone. Talk to someone, make yourself accountable to, you know, telling them what you're good at, and, you know, build a kind of relationship with somebody, family, friends, business colleague, get a mentor, get a coach, you know, basically join a network where you're going to talk openly and say, you know, sometimes I really feel like an imposter, I shouldn't have got here. And then the honest truth of that, and listen to when you hear the feedback when they say, you know, I feel like that too, but here's what I do. Name your inner critic today. So do it today and use her or him. I called mine Agatha for the very reason is that I've never had a client called Agatha. So I need to make sure that Agatha was a name that I hadn't come across an awful lot of, because, you know, I called it Michael, you know, or Meg, you know, I'm meeting all these people all the time. So separate feelings and facts. So really you're feeling that you're not great at what you're doing. You're feeling that you're an imposter and that you're going to be caught out. Well, what are the facts? You know, what have you done to prove that that is wrong, to dispute? You know, in the words we're saying today, like, you know, inner critic, dispute, you know, positivity, grow from the emotions that you have, look back, look for proof. Is what you are thinking real? I mean, again, it's impossible to believe that, you know, to think that we would say something that is so obviously not real. You know, it's for a lot of people, they can be brilliant speakers, narrators, they can, you know, do brilliantly in their business, and yet they still believe. And it comes back to somebody like Michelle Obama. You know, it's like that whole thing, if she actually believed that she was an imposter, and it's almost impossible to believe that. So build the emotional portfolio, dispute negative thinking, and replace negative self-talk. That whole thing about, sure, I'm no good at that, or I'd never be able to do that, or I'm not putting myself forward for that, because just go, okay, well, if I do that, you know, what's positive about that, or what can I change from that? And make every what if a positive. That is going to be difficult because it requires a real mindset. You know, it's like, again, in our day to day, what if you know, what if the car breaks down? Of what there's always something. You will find when you look at this closely that we don't always look for the positive. And there is positives in the same, it's just the same words. What if it's great? What if it's not? And then how to analyze what to do if either of those are right. Stop giving yourself a hard time. Perfection is not possible. So I spoke about the perfectionist as just being one of those group of people, and perfection is not possible all the time. And sometimes, you know, I'm actually the opposite of perfection. So sometimes I will sort of rush through life, and, you know, anybody who knows me, even with regards grammar, whatever, it's like full stop or a comma or whatever, you know, I'm much more inclined to go with an exclamation mark. So I kind of think that you need to have a professional perfection that is needed for your role or your job. But beyond that, if you're looking for perfection all the time, or if you feel that you should be a certain level, then question yourself again back to the dispute. Why is that? Why do you feel that you need to be a perfectionist? You're doing a brilliant job. You come across as amazing at what you're doing. I often think, you know, for influencers at the moment, I actually feel sorry for them, and I've spoke to a good few of them over the years through work. And, you know, they talk about how that the social media is always the next big thing, that they're literally all the time feeling that they have to, because this is now their job. but they feel that they're being a little bit of an imposter because it's not respected by society, or it's not respected maybe outside of the industry of where they're doing. So even in terms of, here, even Donegal, I've spoke to some of our influencers or micro-influencers who say, God, I don't know how I got to where I am. I don't know why 20,000 people are following me, or I don't know what it is that I'm saying. And I think one day they're going to, say, God, we're going to find me out. And I think, again, the more and more you work on your self-confidence, the more you work on that whole, is it real, and dispute that negativity, it's going to come better for you. So stop giving yourself a hard time. Write down the proof and how you made a difference when you achieved success. I think that's really interesting as well, how you made a difference for others. I think sometimes, I was at a talk a few weeks ago, I Am Remarkable, and I think maybe there might be somebody here from that as well, that talk. And they talked about the difference between saying, we did a great job on that project, or I did a great job on that project, or we did great to get that sponsorship in, or I did a great job getting that sponsorship in. We don't want to brag. So sometimes, again, that might come from our childhood, and that we're not to be too showy or to be too self-confident, but there's a balance. And if you are a genuinely good person and help make a difference to other people and show them empathy and respect and work with them and give them credit when they deserve it, then I think that is something that's very important. And I think, again, that's something you need to write down. How did you make a difference to somebody else? As I say, even in the simple term today, if somebody sent me an email or a message on LinkedIn before I started, it really started off this as a positive for me, in that somebody said, can't be there, but good luck. And I think, again, be that person, be the person that steps up to make imposter syndrome disappear for other people. Be positive for them, help them. Don't dismiss it and say, oh, don't be silly. Say, well, let's look at that. Is that real? You really, you got this, you rock this is brilliant, and here's how you did it. Admit that sometimes imposter syndrome is okay. Be kind to you. So again, it came up a little bit in the survey. Is imposter syndrome at any time a good thing or a positive thing? And I didn't purposely go into that earlier on, and I'm not going to purposely deal on it, because for some people it is crippling and it causes huge anxiety and a huge issue. For other people, it helps them stay on their toes. It helps them maybe, give that little bit extra. And sometimes, if we're being very honest, sometimes we have been an imposter. As I said earlier on, when I started out after being a stay-at-home mom, I was crippled with how did I end up in this role, when really I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And yes, I had lots of transferable skills that I learned, but somebody was going to find out. And for a long time, in the beginning, when I started in business, I was quite anxious that somebody would know that. And then after a while, it was like, imposter, if you're using being an imposter in a positive way. So as regards that, in the beginning, I knew that I didn't have the qualifications, or I knew that I didn't have the ability or the learning. I had life experience, but I knew that I had to learn all the other. So while I was doing that, and it comes back to Richard Branson's quote, if somebody asks you to do something and you don't know how to do it, then learn it. So in between, there's going to be a little bit of, I really shouldn't be here. But if you earn it, if you work at it, if you look at the positivity that you are going to bring to it, then you definitely deserve it. And don't forget to dispute the negative thoughts. So again, this is a really interesting graphic, and what I know. So this is what we think. We think everybody else knows everything, and this is the bit that I know here. Whereas in reality, what I know is this, and what other people know is this, and then there's the magic bit in between, the knowledge that we can bring to you and the knowledge that you can bring to me. And again, when I started out in business, I used to sit at meetings and I knew the answers, and I knew the ideas, and I came up with things that were very relevant. But I was sure that everybody else in the room knew more than I did. I was sure that if I spoke up, that whole thing of like, oh my God, you shouldn't be here. So again, it's through working of all of those things. Why shouldn't you? And what's the worst that can happen? And if something, it again comes back to that empathy and kindness. if you are in a situation and somebody says something and it is, off center or it isn't relevant, try to be the person that goes, yeah, that's really interesting. Let's look at that, or let's analyze that, or let's see how we can include that in our plans. Or you can say, well, I don't really see that, but help me understand that. So don't be the person that kind of knocks the other person, because remember, even though we're all very different and we've all got very different personalities, we're all very unique. We're not imposters, we're just unique people. And we're all very, very different people. And we have the power. And that's just something, again, to really stop and believe when you leave this talk today. You have the power to make a huge difference. You have the power this afternoon to send an email, go on LinkedIn, message, phone somebody and say, I meant to say to you, you've done a really good job. It's been a tough time during the pandemic, but you've really rocked it and you've really done fantastic. And you have no idea that how they might need to hear that. They might believe that they haven't done well. They might believe that everyone else is doing so much better than them. And, in terms of, emotion, getting back to those emotions, never fear the emotion. Never fear being honest, being authentic, being real and saying, I can't really cope. I feel that I'm drowning in all of this. I just feel that I don't deserve to be here, or that everybody else thinks that. Don't be afraid to share that with somebody, because that again is gold. So you've got this. You definitely have. There's a course coming in October, and again, just get in touch with me. It's evelynmcmarketing@gmail.com. And Alison, has set a fire under me with this. It's definitely something that in personal branding that I've always had a huge interest in, and as a business and a life coach, I come across this all the time. So it is definitely something that I'm very passionate about. In terms of personal branding as well, they say that personal branding is what people say about you when you leave the room or the Zoom. So, be the person that says a positive thing. Be the person that really steps up and disputes when you hear something, or whether that's from the person themselves or somebody else. Just be the person that is greater than all of this. Be the person that really supports others and mentors others. And again, we spoke earlier on about students, we spoke about graduates. They are really struggling out there at the moment. And so if you know a graduate and you know somebody that you can sit down and say, look, life experience and life lesson will teach you a lot, but for now you have your degree. There's nothing to dispute there. You're qualified. Yes, you need experience. Yes, you need to go to the next step. But again, be the person, and the maturer we are, the better that is to share with those who are coming along beside us or behind us. So again, in terms of that. So I'm going to finish off before we go to questions, and I hope there's lots of them. And this guy is Justin Can. You may not have heard about him. And my son is 32, and he's basically into tech in a big way. And so I spoke to him and did a little bit of research with him as well about imposter syndrome. And, we think that the tech industry and all of that world are very confident. And it was him that actually told me about this guy. And Justin Can sold his company called Twitch, which is like YouTube, for $970 million. Now, that's a lot of money. And you would think that this guy really would believe that he was just the man and he had arrived at, success. But no, this guy actually is suffering from imposter syndrome, even after all that he's done. And it's just that fear as you're going along. And he spoke about startups in tech, and, that's very relevant. But again, within Donegal Women in Business Network, we talk about kitchen table to boardroom table. And, that's something that I think really that I want to say as well, even though I've given you an example here of this guy who's at the extreme. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It appears that imposter syndrome can sneak in. So I want him to finish off our talk. So hopefully this works. Justin Can, as I say, has sold his business, and hopefully now the sound will work. Alison, please tell me if it doesn't.
What's up, guys? Here's how I deal with imposter syndrome. First of all, imposter syndrome, or the feeling that you're not good enough and you don't deserve to be here, is very common. It's something even I experience as someone who has started successful companies before. And really, it's due to asymmetric information. You know what's going wrong in your own life, but all you see from other people is what's going right, what they post on social media, the headlines, the news, etc. So here's how I deal with imposter syndrome. First, recognize that feeling like an imposter is normal. Second, get a group of friends in your cohort that you can be brutally honest with and meet regularly with them. Make sure that you normalize bringing up what's not going well. 3, gratitude journal to contextualize what's happening every day. 4, get the fuck off social media. Social media is like sugar, good in small doses, but if you eat it every day, you're gonna get diabetes. All right, good luck.
Brilliant. So just going back there again. So that's Justin Can, and he's pretty much saying what each one of us is saying is that it's there, it's real, we feel it, and just going back into our notes here again, just sort of going through them again. So basically, what you need to do is talk. Name your inner critic today. Please do that. I want to hear what some great names. Separate feelings and facts. Look for the proof. Is it real what you're thinking, or can you really dispute it? Can you prove it yourself? Get that emotional portfolio together and the feedback portfolio. It can be as simple as a notebook. It can be on a Word document or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be fancy. And just literally, write down the times when you really felt that you rocked it, and then also maybe look at the times when it didn't go as well. Were you organized? Did you prepare enough? Did you give it enough time and thought before you were doing whatever it was that you were doing? We've often heard the stories about people not applying for the job because they read down through it. And I know there is that whole thing about, men maybe more so will go for it because they'll see that there are 3 things on the job, that the prospect that they can go for, and that they know they're really good at. The rest, they can manage it. Females, believe it or not, seemingly have to have all the boxes ticked before they apply for it. Again, have a think about that. What is the worst thing that could happen if you do decide to apply for the position, the role, the honor, or whatever it is? Ask for the opportunities. Alison and I have spoke about opportunities, in terms of even from this, putting the survey together, gathered a lot more people to give their feedback. When I was at the event last week, there was a really nice guy from Puerto Rico, and he was talking about this is something that is really the same to the people that he works with as it is to all of us. Replace the negative self-talk. We all do it. I mean, there's nothing here that you don't already know. We all do it. I'm no good at that. I can't do that. I'm not ready yet. I'm not able. Just try and put the spin on it to give yourself that positive, and really try and change what if. So what if it's amazing? What if it's wonderful? What if somebody discovers you? What if you win an award? What if you are brave enough to give your thoughts at that meeting and they're adopted and people say, it's a great idea. Who came up with that idea? And really own it. And then if it doesn't work, don't own the negativity that goes with that. Go, yeah, that was my idea. We looked through it, we did it, and actually it didn't really work out in the end. So get writing, get naming, and just be kind to you and visualize success. And I think that's definitely the one point I want to leave you with, is that, whatever it is that you are dealing with in terms of imposter syndrome, whether you think you are not the most amazing mom or dad that you need to be, or sister or daughter, or graduate or business owner or employee, visualize how and what way you're going to move through this, what way you're going to move the dial from where you're at. Definitely talk to people. Definitely read up more on it. As I say, there's a course coming. Get in touch. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed delivering it. I think I probably have left loads of my notes out. But thank you all so much.
Thanks very much, Evelyn. That was brilliant. And as I just see a comment coming through there, it was indeed a very informative presentation. And I think for a lot of us, we can relate to loads of that. There's so many nuggets of information there that I could relate to, for sure. And you've got me sitting here thinking, what will I name my inner critic? So I suppose if anyone has any questions, pop it in the chat function. And as well, if anyone has came up with names for their inner critic, let us hear them.
Yeah, We'd love that. And then just while you're putting questions in, and go on, ask me a question, because like, you know, I don't
Evelyn
know.
loves a question.
Well, I don't know whether I'll know the answer, but yeah, go on. But there was a little quote here that I forgot to say to you. It's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you are not. So I mean, you know, it's like if our negative and if our feedback in our brain is always, I can't do that, or I'm not able to do that, or I did that last time and it didn't work. You know, it's just really to try and just have that mindset, that positive mindset, saying, no, you know what, it didn't. And life experiences, you know, does prepare you so much, you know, even in terms of looking at, you know, way back last year, whenever we were all getting used to Zoom and, you know, all that sort of thing, somebody interviewed me, and of course, I just wasn't prepared. I was looking forward to being interviewed. I was really excited or whatever, but I was a real rookie mistake. I didn't charge my laptop. 30 seconds into the interview and the laptop dies. And I'm like, oh my God. So I literally had to go plug it in or whatever. Now at that stage, I was like, oh my God, I am the greatest imposter ever. She was interviewing me and I didn't even have my, you know, what kind of a marketing businesswoman doesn't even have their laptop charged. But when I went on and just said, do you know what, I'm really sorry. I could give you 10 mistakes, but I forgot to charge it. And it was that I'm being authentic, you know, I'm just telling it as it is. So, you know, again, I think people really respect, you know, again, I come back to Women in Business, but, you know, I'm also involved with European Women in Business Network, and I co-host an event the first Tuesday of every month. So again, tell you all about that sometime. And it's just that whole thing that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter what level you're at, it doesn't matter, you know, new mums, any new mums out there, anybody's on maternity leave or whatever, like you just believe, how did I end up with this beautiful baby? I'm an imposter. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just not there. Well, that's where it comes, you know, so right the whole way through. It doesn't matter what level we're at. You know, so just, you know, give yourself a break.
And you're very correct in saying that. I mean, I think it doesn't matter what stage of your life you're at. It certainly is something that creeps in. So you can be a graduate, you can be an entrepreneur, maybe at 60. So yeah, it definitely does appeal to everyone. And as you say, it's from every walk of life. As you see in the comments, we have Stephanie here from Canada. So we have a number of people tuned in from around the world that can relate to it. So on that,
brilliant.
It's fantastic. So we actually have someone raising their hand. I wonder if I can just give Lisa, let me see if Lisa can come on, allowed to talk.
Lisa's now panicking. She's going, oh my God, I didn't know they were going to put me on there. I really shouldn't be on here.
Unless
Lisa.
she hasn't done it by accident. But Lisa, how are you?
Sorry, I actually hit the button by mistake.
Well, you know what, Lisa, you were meant to be all right. So your camera's not on, so that's fine. So you were meant. So, you know, here's your golden moment. You're going to feel so elated when you go off this call, because you're going to go, oh my God, if I'd known they were going to put me on there, I would have just turned off everything. So here's your golden moment, Lisa. Tell us, did you enjoy it? Have you got an inner critic name? Tell us all.
Yes, no, I thought that was amazing. I really suffer from imposter syndrome, and just going through all the points, I was like, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me. So I think that was really informative. I'm going to go away now and start writing a gratitude journal, because I think that's really key. But yeah, I found that really interesting and learned loads. And you don't really realize how much these things do hold you back, you know. So I think that's what I'm going to work on now, is trying not to let it hold me back and let myself believe that, yes, I can do this, and believe, you know, myself a wee bit more, that I am worthy. So yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, Lisa. That's fantastic. And genuinely, today, at the start of that gratitude diary, at the start of that, you know, writing it down and putting the feedback, write that down. Right, you know what, at the last minute, Alison just plucked me up, put me on the center stage to the global webinar, and I actually was able to speak, get my point across, and it was brilliant. And everybody thought, you know, that I knew what I was at. And so even that thing, you know, I was saying to Alison earlier on, you know, I've given a lot of talks and a lot of things, and every time I'm nervous. Every time I'm worried, I've got all these notes and I'm thinking, oh my God, and what are they going to do? And what do they think? And you know, it's like then you go off and you think that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. If it did, and if something goes wrong, you go, okay, well, I didn't prepare that or whatever it was. You know, and it's like if we're waiting, I often talk about writing books, and I think Meg's with us. So the mummyhandbook.com. This is the book that Meg O'Gara and myself co-wrote. And if anybody again knows me, they'll know that I mentioned it earlier on, and I wasn't joking when I told you that I am terrible at grammar. I'm good at spelling, I think. Well, Trish McGinn will probably disagree with that, but I am reasonably good at writing and imaginative with it. But the fact that I have 6 books actually sometimes amazes me, because I am terrible at grammar, and you know, I'm not the type of person who is very detailed and perfected with it. So what I would say to you, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever you're thinking about doing, whether it's in life or in business, you know, there's people there to help you along. You know, do it, be brave, step up to it, step into it. What's the worst that can happen? And once you've done it, you know, I've got proof that I'm an author, hilarious and all as that may be to myself at most times, but it genuinely is, you know, something that you just should go for it and step up and do it, because you are so much greater. And again, you know, in business, we often say, you know so much more than you think you do, and don't be afraid to say it. So yeah, listen, thank you all so much. And thanks, Alison. Thank you all of you who came. Any more questions or anything at all?
Well, Evelyn, I think that's a brilliant way to close it to an end. And for sure, I think you've given us a much needed kickstart to our day. So I see there's no more questions. So from myself here at WestBIC and W Power, I'd just like to thank you, Evelyn, and thank everyone who has attended today. I hope you got something from it, and I'm sure you have. So again, you can check out the W Power website and so on for future webinars. But I'd just like to thank you and thank everyone today. Have a lovely day.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. That's fantastic. And Evelyn McMarket@gmail.com if I can help you in any way. Thanks a million. Take care. I'm going to have my coffee now. Relax. Thanks a million. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.